Okay, so I was gonna make this video yesterday, but by the time I got home, I was too tired and I had too much to do. It was kind of crazy. So I'm doing this today. Yesterday was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Now, most people know by now that I try to have someone in the apartment at all times, either me or my mom, one of us, or if I can get a friend to come, if both of us have to go out. I used to go with my mom to her doctor's appointments and whatnot, but once I realized that people were actually coming in here and tampering with things and tampering with our food and everything else, I tried to make it so that they couldn't come in without one of us knowing. And even then, they had people come in anyway. For example, once when I was home, someone just came and walked in. Right? That's a whole other story. I'll get to that another time. But yeah, so I had been using rideshare to take my mom to appointments before before I realized that one of us really did have to be here to prevent them from coming in. But then I started sending her on her own, and it was frightening because she's not immobile. I mean, she can go on her own, but at the same time she's getting older, and I'm worried that they're going to do something to her. It's not a good situation. I don't know what to do. Do I send her on her own, or and risk something happening, or do I go with her, and in which case the apartment is going to be empty and they can come in and do what they want, whether it's to tamper with the food, or poison it, or put more cameras up. I don't know. Anyway. Well, yesterday I did have to go with her. Yesterday she was going to a doctor, and it wasn't very far. It was like, a 10-minute drive, but it was enough where she really did. She had to take a car. She couldn't just walk or whatever. It's not like another doctor that's right right next door. I had to go with her. There was no way out of it. So I did. It was the first time in a long time that both of us had left the apartment unattended. Needless to say, I ended up taking a lot with. I took all of the electronics with. I took some of the open food with, the food that's not sealed or in sealed jars. I took some of our important papers. It was incredibly stressful, just carrying all that, and I don't know how many times, how much more I can do that. It's then with my mom and her walker, and very stressful. And this is what I got the rideshare card for, because obviously I'm not going to take her on public transportation. That's even if there wasn't a pandemic, that would not be an option. So we used rideshare. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So her appointment was at 11, and because it was a 10-minute ride away, we left the apartment at 10. Okay, actually a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes to 10. Why did we leave so early? Because with this building, the elevators are bad. You never know when an elevator, if it's going to come right away or if it's going to take an hour. There have been people who have waited 40 minutes or longer for an elevator. It depends what's going on, if people are moving in, if they're moving out. And right now that's even worse. I mean, it was like that before the pandemic, but now it's even worse because now the rules are, it's limited to 4 people to an elevator. So if there are already 4 people in there and it stops, you can't get on. There were other people on our floor who were also waiting, and they ended up taking the stairs, and that's what I usually do when I'm alone. But obviously, I couldn't take the stairs with my mother, and of course I had all those heavy items to carry. So we waited and we waited and we waited. The elevator didn't come. Finally, it was like 20 minutes to my mom's doctor's appointment. We should have been there already. The ride would have taken 10 minutes. So I called them, and I told them, well, we were going to be a little late, and I explained why. And the woman suggested, well, maybe we should call back, wait a little while and call back, see if the elevator comes. Otherwise, we might have to change the appointment. So I waited another 20 minutes. It's 10 to 11 or 11 o'clock. I don't know the exact time. It was 11 o'clock. Called back. I said, we're still waiting. We're still waiting for the damn elevator. So she suggested we schedule the appointment for later. So we scheduled it for later, but we continued waiting for the elevator because I figured if we go back into the apartment and then, go, then head out later, the same thing is going to happen. So we'll just get there early. Of course, getting there early, we had to wait downstairs because the office is closed it's closed for lunch and the door's locked. So it was very stressful. It was very stressful. We did end up getting there. We got there about an hour and a half early. Last thing you want to do during a pandemic is wait around with your elderly mother or your elderly parent, but we had to. It's just, this is what you have to do. So we were waiting. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So we got into rideshare, lugging all the stuff, and because I've gone a little crazy with worrying about germs, and now we do have to be careful, but I've gone full germaphobe, I think, at this point. I took a little bottle of rubbing alcohol that I have, and I put it in a spray bottle to sanitize our hands. But I also took a larger bottle of Lysol mixed with water, a spray bottle, to sanitize whatever needed to be sanitized. Well, I put it in the bag, and this shouldn't have broken, but it opened up, and I don't know how it did. But so we're taking the ride share, whatever. By that point I'm stressing out. I'm almost to the point where I'm so anxious and nervous. I was almost to the point where I was dissociating, and I don't mean dissociating in the sense of DID or multiple personalities. No, I just mean kind of just shutting down and kind of shutting down, shutting off, and just not being quite present. And of course, I didn't want to do that while I was taking care of my mom when we were out during a pandemic and the perps are following us. That's the one, that's the time where you have to be most focused, but it's also the most stressful, which creates dissociation. So anyway, I got my mom out of the car, got the bags out. Some of the bags were in the trunk. That bag I had with me. So we got out, we left, and then I noticed that the side of the bag was wet, and the side of my pants were wet also. The Lysol had spilled, and I'm thinking, oh shit, I hope it didn't spill in his car, right? Fast forward, we're waiting downstairs, in the professional building. We can't go up to the office yet because they're closed for lunch at that point. I get a text saying that someone had tried to log into one of my emails. Not this one, it was a different one. Of course, I declined that, changed the password, whatever. Moving forward, I got another text or email from the rideshare company saying that it was charged and everything was fine. The bill looked fine. But then maybe 20 minutes later, I got another email from them saying that they're charging $150 for a mess that was made in the vehicle. Shit, it did spill in his car, and I feel bad about this. I was determining whether or not to feel bad because initially he did take us to the wrong location. He stopped across the street, maybe a few buildings away. But it panicked my mom because she said, "No, that's not where we're going. That's not where we're going." So we kind of had to drive around to the correct location. But even still, he was a nice guy, and I guess that can happen. The GPS is not entirely accurate, so I don't always blame them for that. But in the end, I did spill Lysol in his car, and I should have had to pay for it. He needed to have that cleaned up, and he shouldn't have had to pay for it. So it was an expensive trip. It was $150. Okay, well that left me with $7 on because I get the prepaid cards for the ride share. That left me with $7. I'm thinking, well, we have cash with us. We can take a cab home. But I would rather, take rideshare. So there was a Walgreens not too far from there. I left my stuff, all the stuff with my mom. I said, please stay awake and watch this so that they don't tamper with it. I went to Walgreens, and the rideshare card that I needed was the one thing they were out of. Of course, that always happens. So we ended up having to take a cab home. But before that happened, finally got to the doctor's office. We went upstairs to, they opened the doors. We went to the clinic, whatever, and we're waiting there. And this guy walks in. He's clearly Eastern European. He kind of looked Cro-Magnon a bit. His eyes were very close together. He's blonde hair, blue eyes, but his eyes were very close together. He was about 5'8" I think. Kind of stared me down when he walked in. Then he went and he sat, and at the other side of the room, which wasn't very big. The room was pretty small. Okay, so I'm filling out the electronic form for my mom, and I noticed that her email address is wrong, but you can't change that there. So I went up to the front, and the woman said, "Oh, okay, I'll change it. What's the email address?" She was going to give me she actually wasn't going to give me a pen, because this is all electronic. But there was a pen right there, and I was going to, I thought, can I just write it down for you? But I didn't want to touch the pen, because I'm thinking it might be dirty, there might be germs on it, and I know I have the alcohol to sanitize my hands, but the germs, and this is getting out of hand, I think. I whispered her the email address so the guy couldn't hear, and then she repeated it out loudly. He did hear, and so I walked back and I noticed him, and even though he was wearing a mask, his eyes were kind of gleaming, and squinted, like he was smirking through the mask as he was texting. I'm thinking, you know what, these pathetic cowards. They get so excited and they feel so proud if they get one little victory, but there's no honor in this. They're a bunch of pathetic, predatory cowards who are gathered in a massive group against a lone target that they don't believe can ever fight back. You can't get any more cowardly than that. There's no honor in that. You shouldn't take any pride in doing that. You want to fight someone, fight a real threat. But you know what, I'm not going to talk about that today. It was a long day. So when we got home, I sat my mom down and I went into the bathroom. I sanitized everything before she got in there. Then I had to go back out. I went back out. I got another rideshare card to just refill my account. Came back, sanitized the apartment before my mom, was able to touch anything. The reason is she rubs her eyes, she rubs her nose, she rubs her mouth. I can't stop her from doing that. And I can't just watch her 24/7, even at night. I have to sleep at some point. So absolutely everything has to be sanitized. And because I don't know what they did when they came in here. In the past, they've done stupid things like move the clock back, or, take food out of the fridge and leave it out, or open a window or something. But there are also times where I've eaten something and I've gotten sick, or my heart started beating rapidly. They could have put something in it. They could, and I know that sanitizing the apartment doesn't get rid of toxins if they used chemicals or whatever. But if they, if God forbid they contaminated the place with a virus or something, at least that'll be taken care of. And then I washed our sheets. After that, I went to the laundry room and I washed our bedding just in case. So I was tired last night. It was a long night. And of course, it's been difficult because they're waking me up now at between 3:30 and 4 a.m. Once, a few days ago, they let me sleep until 5 a.m. But again, yesterday, they woke me up at between 3:30 and 4. They did the same thing today. So I'm not getting a lot of sleep. I'm tired. And I don't know how much longer I can do this. This is crazy. Anyway, I just wanted to update, just as to what was going on. Peace.